Hello everyone, welcome back to this series where I just basically read off a character's backstory. The character I'm talking about today is really interesting, like how in the world did Genshin come up with a character like this? Anyways, in today's video we'll be talking about the young Catslin cocktail maker who's also the self-proclaimed wine industry slayer, aka Diona. Diona is a crowd bow character that's amazing at being a crowd support. Not only can she provide shields, she can also provide healing and particles for your crowd DPS. With Diona on your team, not only is your Aika being healed and has a shield, but she can also constantly burst on cooldown, which means your enemies are just like frozen and can't do anything. Diona was one of the funnest characters to learn about, so I'm kinda excited to make this video. With that said, let's now learn about the backstory of Diona, the Catslin cocktail maker. Trivia. Diona's name is most likely the combination of the Roman goddess of hunt, Diana, and the Greek god of winemaking, Dionysus, which is really fitting for her. Diona's name could also derive from a sea nymph from Greek mythology named Dione, which could relate to the fact that Diona is blessed by a spring fairy. Diona's constellation is named Felis, which is Latin for cat. Did you know that when it comes to Diona's name card, the description says that the making of the cat sign was an ancient prank played by a certain someone? I don't know who this certain someone is, but I think this is a pretty interesting piece of trivia. The last piece of trivia I want to talk about is that apparently Jackie Lostra, the voice actress for Xiangling in the English version, voiced Diona in her hangout event until version 2.4 where Dina Sherman, the original voice actress, returned to voice her. Here's a comparison of the two.
You're coming with me to Dadaupa Gorge? There'll be a lot of monsters in there. I wouldn't want to stir them up all at once. So I plan on sneaking by the monsters to find my stupid father. What's your plan?
You're coming with me to Dadaupa Gorge? There'll be a lot of monsters in there. I wouldn't want to stir them up all at once. So I plan on sneaking by the monsters to find my stupid father. What's your plan?
With that said, let's now learn the backstory of the self-proclaimed wine industry slayer, aka Diona. Character details. Whenever a guest walks into the Cat's Tail, they'll immediately glance at the direction of the bar. Behind it often stands a girl with mildly twitching cat ears, cocktail shaker in hand, and an unhappy look on her face. This is Diona, a sitting star of Mondstadt's wine industry and the greatest challenger to its traditional powerhouses. However, she does not make these wonderful cocktails on purpose. Indeed, quite the opposite. Her mixing methods can seem a little inscrutable to an outsider. To herself, Diona tries nothing less than to ruin that hateful grog. But no matter the drink, it'll turn out to be an unimaginably sumptuous brew so long as it passes through her hands. This is a blessing she has received, though that blessing is a huge headache for her. For this mixologist proclaims herself to be the wine industry slayer, and her final objective is the utter destruction of Mondstadt's entire wine industry. Speaking of it being a huge headache for her, I'm gonna sound like a bad person here, but it was hilarious playing Diona's hangout event and hearing her complain about it. Like, listen to this.
Stop joking around! I can make a drink that tastes like that! Here, watch this! Give me that drink you just made. I'll show you! I'm gonna add all the remaining ingredients. Lizard tails, fish scales, mucus, and the sun condensate. And stir! Come on, be dreadful, be awful, be absolutely disgusting! It can't be that hard!
Honestly, I've never laughed so hard at a hangout event until now. And I'm definitely not the only one who laughed at this, and you can't convince me otherwise. Story 1. Coming to the Cat's Tail to serve as his bartender was really a prank on Diona's part, the first step in her master plan. When patrons came in, they will enjoy her look of disgust as they got ready for the Diona special. Here, drink this sea salt lizard and kiss your life as an alcoholic goodbye. So she would say, thus ruining these booze hounds' appetites. And yet, wow, I have never had such a wonderful drink! Can I have a refill, miss? You want a refill? To this day, Diona has struggled with her unbroken record of mixing fine drinks. Unable to accept defeat, she has yet to give up on her dream of producing something truly disgusting. However, the results are always the same, and the Cat's Tail remains a popular watering hole, with its pleased patrons singing praises unending of her skills. All poor Diona can do is puff up her cheeks, tears forming from her eyes as she grumbles, oh wait! You know, Diona's kinda like Xiangling in a weird way, minus the giving her customers food poisoning part. Story 2. Diona's father, Draff, is the best hunter in Springvale. With a resolute face, honed hunting techniques, and calm judgment calls, he fully deserves to be the leader of the huntsmen of Springvale, and is example of them all. In Diona's young mind, her father was her shining, perfect idol, the person she wanted to be, and that was why she cried her heart out the day the pedestal she had put her father upon abruptly shattered. "When he's drunk, he's like a wild boar rolling about in the mud," so she said, her eyes ringed red. But Diona was not ready to blame this on her father's terrible drinking habits, for how could such a great father have such faults? "It's the wine's fault! It bewitches people and makes them stupid!" This is the source of Diona's hatred for alcohol, and the beginning of the Cat's Tail's turn and fortunes. That said, Margaret, the owner of Cat's Tail, had never expected any of this to happen at all. Rather, she had much simpler reasons for hiring Diona. "What choice did I have? She's just too cute." So you're telling me, in her attempts to destroy the alcohol industry, she unintentionally made it flourish instead? Dang, that's rough, buddy. Story 3. Many patrons believed that Diona's ears and tail were part of her uniform as a bartender. This persisted until one day, when one particular player fellow tugged her tail off curiosity, only to find it unexpectedly warm and soft. That day, Diona turned the tavern upside down. These feline features are the hallmarks of those with cat's-line blood in their veins, and it is an exceedingly rare sight in Mondstadt. Other than such aesthetic similarities, Diona and her father Draff also owe their prowess on the hunt to this ancient bloodline. Infiltration, archery, climbing, and dodging. Diona requires no teacher for such skills. Ah, yes, and she also has a pair of eyes that can see well in the dark. As for weaknesses, she bites when piqued, so please be careful. Thus did Dr. Edith write of Diona in her notes for studies into bloodlines strange and unfamiliar. I wonder, if Diona's dad never got drunk, then Diona could have ended up as a hunter like her dad. But instead, she became a bartender in order to destroy Mondstadt's wine industry. Yep, that's Genshin for ya. Story 4. Diona's appearance did indeed have an impact on Mondstadt's alcohol industry. The Dawn Winery's long-held monopoly was broken overnight by this unexpected ambush from Cat's Tail, and the man put in charge of the winery's business, Elzer, found this unacceptable. A calculating veteran of many industrial battles, Elzer considered poaching this key figure, never realizing that Diona considered the Dawn Winery as sort of final boss to defeat in her quest. These marvelous and bold method of preparation must be the secret to these flavors, yes? Diona simply looked at the white-haired man who just sat down in front of the bar, ranked his pleasure in her eyes. Ah, simply exquisite. I can just feel your incomparable passion and love for wine. Diona started to tremble as it held onto her cocktail shaker, and detecting the change at once with his sharp gaze, Elzer understood immediately. If a brilliant bartender as yourself were to grace the Dawn Winery with your cooperation, we shall be able to bring Mondstadt's alcohol industry to heretofore unseen heights. When Dilu questioned Elzer as to the story behind his bandaged hand later, he was uncharacteristically hesitant to say anything. I was bitten by a cat. Wait, let me check something real quick. Huh. Ah yes, I've come to the conclusion that it's illegal for someone underage to become a bartender. I'm just saying, it's pretty weird that multiple people in Mondstadt are willing to have her as a bartender. But I guess that's just normal in Mondstadt. Story 5. There is a legend about a spring fairy that circulates in Diona's hometown. The fairy once saved a mother and son who had despaired beside a well, filling the barren hole with rushing waters that pulled and formed a spring. The child, deathly ill, was miraculously healed by those spring waters. Many people came to catch a glimpse of these blessed waters and built a settlement around it, and left it not thereafter. Over time, this gave rise to a small town known as Springvale. Nowadays, few are left who believe this is any more than mere legend, and some even dismiss it as myth-making for tourism's sake. Only little Diona believed in the existence of the spring fairy, and on nights when her father was in a deep stupor asleep, she would speak to the moon reflected in the spring water's surface. These were earnest feelings, innocent and wonderful, feelings worth answering. That was what the spring fairy believed. So, Diona would make a curious friend, a companion whom she could bear her feelings to and sometimes assuage her loneliness. On the night of Diona's 7th birthday, as the moonlight reflected off the spring and upon her face, she heard the soft voice of the spring fairy. I will bless you, daughter of hunters, for your days ahead, and as a farewell, may your cup always run over with the sweet wine of celebration. May it also be refreshing as the springs of ever-melting snow. From that day on, the spring fairy would never appear before Diona again, and she left those memories behind, consigning them to her childhood dreams. Till today, she has yet to realize that her troublesome constitution has anything to do with that dream. Oh yeah, did you know that Endora, that little water pet thing that sadly missed out on, reveals that the spring fairy in Springvale is an Oceanid? Which if you didn't know, during the Wishful Drops event, it was revealed that all Oceanids originated from Fontaine. Oceanids are a species made out of pure hydro energy, therefore they're able to control water. In the past, they were devoted to the previous Hydra Archon, but after her death, she was replaced by the God of Justice. The Oceanids didn't like the new Hydra Archon, so they all decided to go on a self-imposed exile from Fontaine. If you want to learn more about this, then go to the Genshin fandom wiki where it explains everything in more detail. Cold Cocktail Shaker. Dina's father, Drath, is also interested in mixing the occasional drink. Dina's tail will wag from side to side of its own accord as she watches her father rock the shaker back and forth at night. But young Diona also found that her father will wind up particularly drunk on such nights, becoming dead to the world before he could even finish her bedtime story. Thus, when Drath went out to hunt one day, she hid the shaker, squirreling it away in the deepest place under her bed. Unexpectedly, her father didn't bother looking for the lost shaker at all. He simply bought a new one back the very next day. When Diona went to Cat's Tail to try out for the role of bartender, Margaret noticed how the cocktail shaker Diona had with her looked wholly unsuited for her style. Ever skilled with handicraft, Margaret will give Diona a cocktail shaker equipped with a lovely cat's tail as an induction gift. Now this suits you far better, Margaret said with a satisfied nod. Aw, what a heartwarming story. Why is Margaret hiring a kid to be a bartender? Vision. Dina's apathy towards alcohol is not hate per se, instead it could be considered a form of avarice. She wishes for her father to always be the man that she admires, and she treasures every moment that she spends with her family, unwilling to share her happiness with the wine. There was once a storm that lasted for 3 days, and for those 3 days, her father, who had been out hunting, did not return. The awful weather prevented the search party sent by the Knights of Avonius from making much headway, and soon, the dread of loss began to head over Diona like a shroud. If she could not even stand to share, how could she bear having something utterly stolen from her? She burst out the door into the tempest, and the waters that stood in her path were frozen by some power she did not recognize. Using her superlative tracking skills, she returned home with her father, and only once she realized that he would be fine did she finally smile again. Do you want me to mix you a drink? It will numb the pain a little. That was probably the first time she ever mixed a drink in the normal fashion. Oh, it's so refreshing. It's wonderful. Ow! Getting to drink a cocktail that his daughter had made was probably better anesthetic by far than the alcohol itself. Still, Diona gaining power over Cryo did not help reconcile her to wine at all. Well, that's all there is to Dina's backstory. You know, Dina's backstory's pretty out there, that's for sure. Like, a little girl gains the powers to become a good drink maker because she was friends with a water creature from Fontaine, and that very power stopping her from destroying Monstrance's wine industry. I guess this is just your average 4-star character, everyone. I know I said something like this in the Toma video, but you should definitely play Dina's Hangout event. Out of all the Hangout events I've done so far, which is not that much, I think Dina's my favorite so far. I mean, look at all these ending images. They're so cute and hilarious, especially this one. Anyways, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then like and subscribe. If you want to choose the next character to talk about, then leave a comment down below. Well, that's the video. Goodbye! Oh my, that's a lot of people. Thanks for subbing, and I'm glad y'all enjoy my videos.